yes, very interesting to say the least. I would encourage you to go on YouTube, his TED Talk. It's only about something like, I think it was like 19 minutes long or something. So yeah, go look it up. Okay, the first study I wanted to look at, which looks at the science behind wireless technology, is from the Journal of Cellular and Molecular Medicine, and it's authored by Dr. Martin Powell. It's titled Electromagnetic Fields Act via Activation of Voltage-Gated Calcium Channels to Produce Beneficial or Adverse Effects. So just reading on the abstract, this paper looked at 23 studies and its effects on different animals and I suppose animal parts. And it basically found that each one of them had an influx of calcium, and I'll just run through the paper really quickly. So 23 studies have shown that the voltage-gated calcium channels produce these and other EMF effects. I'll show you. This article is available online and is quite easy to search for. And alright, so where is that? Yeah, here it is. So table 1, this basically just looks at the different type of electromagnetic frequencies that they exposed different organisms to, animals. So they looked at things like rats, mice, I think I've seen sharks here, cow cells. They also looked at rats, and the most important, I suppose, column is if you look at this response measured. So out of all these different studies, 23 of them showed an increase in let's slide that over. It's showed an increase in calcium within the cell. So if you look here, calcium increase, and that is a problem. That is a huge problem. So if we keep looking through, so again, calcium flux into cells, calcium flux into cells, calcium dynamics, and on and on and on. Okay, so what are voltage-gated calcium channels? So just a quick wiki search, and it basically shows they are a group of voltage-gated ion channels found in the membrane of excitable cells, such as muscle cells, brain cells, heart cells, and have a permeability to calcium, which basically means cells which use calcium, which are things like brain cells, heart cells, muscle cells, etc. So if we look at this diagram of the cell, on the outside of the cell there are these channels, you could think of them as, I suppose, floodgates, which open and close, which allow calcium into and outside of the cell. So when exposed to electromagnetic frequencies, or EMFs, that are outside I suppose, our natural bandwidth with regard to our biology, it essentially opens these calcium channels, and calcium floods into the cell. So this is bad in two ways. So as calcium enters the cell, just going on this diagram, it creates nitric oxide, which then gets further broken down into free radicals, which then damages DNA. Now, when we think of calcium as it relates to the cell, it tends to the key word is just action. So it turns things on and turns things off based on levels within the cell. Now, why is this bad? This is bad because we don't have a way to detoxify electromagnetic frequencies. This isn't like, bad sugars or, carbs or fats. There is no process within us to detoxify electromagnetic frequencies. Okay, to some of the most disturbing studies which